Hey, what is going on, everybody? Boilon here, and in today's video, we're finally going to get around to talking about this, and that is Dark Dimension. I know it feels like ages ago that we've been talking about this, but I'm going to be doing a video here talking about the best characters, in my opinion, that you should be building for Dark Dimension, both for all of it, City, Global, Cosmic, and Legendary. That one's pretty obvious, but I want to talk about it within the context of the Apocalypse era, because there's been a lot of people asking me to do something like this to kind of go over my picks specifically that I think that people should be building for these particular lanes. I think City in particular is one thing that kind of people have a little bit of confusion over about who they should be building. So hopefully this video will clear some of that up and will help you kind of understand my thoughts about why you should be building certain characters for Dark Dimension if you're headed in that direction. So if you're ready to go, then let's boil this down. And first off is going to be the global lane. Yes, we're not going to be doing City first. Now, I'm pretty sure when you're doing Dark Dimension 3 and Dark Dimension 4, it's Global, Cosmic, and then City. And then it's not until Dark Dimension 5 that actually City ends up being first. So I want to do it in the more traditional way, because this video is going to be a video for people whether you're in Dark Dimension 3, 4, or 5. So these are characters that you should probably be considering and building up through the ways, all the way up. And Global isn't the problem spot, honestly. There are so many characters, so this is going to be really challenging for me to kind of say, okay, build these 5, because there's so many characters that you need to build within the context of, you know, the Apocalypse era, and almost all of them tend to be within the global side of the roster. Let's look at the top of my roster, though. Not the characters that I've starred, because Rebirth is on there, and Rebirth is a team that you're going to want to consider upgrading for raids and stuff like that. But aside from that, I want to kind of take a look at the characters that I have built up pretty high. So my gear tier 17 and my gear tier 16. And that's going to be, obviously, the Horseman characters, which you can't use within this context. Actually, you can use in Dark Dimension 3 because they don't have a legendary lane, but you cannot do so in Dark Dimension 4 and 5. But the first obvious pick is going to be Spider Weaver. So not only is she a character that's going to be required for you to use for Apocalypse for the Saga, but she is a global character, and she's one of the best characters in the game. Very likely you're sitting on a 7-star character, and if you're a lower player who is in that Strike Pass tier 1, then you'll have, I don't know, 100 extra shards on her. Either way, Spider Weaver is one of the best characters in the game, and so that's a no-brainer there. So every version of Dark Dimension Global for you should include Spider Weaver. P.S. I hate when I exit out, it still takes me to the very top of my menu, so I have to scroll back down. Aside from that, honestly, it's your choice. I know that's not very helpful, but there are so many characters. The majority of the, if you are someone who is going to be building, if you think that you're going to be pushing towards Apocalypse, or that's your goal, that's one of your personal goals, there are so many characters that are going to be in there. Almost all, I believe all of them from Deathseed, all of them from Unlimited X-Men, and a lot of them from Darkhold is going to be in here. And actually, in fact, all 4 of them, almost all of them are global. We want to actually more talk about who is not part of the global team at this point, because there's so many. So I would try and double dip with your Horseman characters if you're going towards Apocalypse. If you're not, there are still other good choices, including Bionic Avengers, because they're a solid raid team and almost entirely farmable. Viv Vision is going to be farmable pretty soon out of Villains Chapter 6, or was it Heroes Chapter 6? Either way, Hard Mode Chapter 6. For Viv, and there's lots of other characters as well. The Rebirth team, if you happen to unlock them, they're going to be solid picks as well as a team in full. So that's personally what I would do. If you want to use the synergy involved in this to make it really easy, then I would probably choose something like Rebirth or Bionic Avengers, because none of them have legendary characters. Therefore, you can use the entire team in full. Otherwise, obviously, there's Spider Weaver and then double dipping of any of the Horseman characters if you so wish. Even Wakandans, frankly, are actually, no, sorry, don't do Wakandans, because Shuri is a legendary character, and we'll talk about her later, but yeah, you can't use the whole Wakandans team together. You kind of need Shuri to kind of bridge them all together, so it's not a great use for that, so I don't recommend that. So yeah, I don't know why I said that, sorry, my bad. But those are my personal recommendations for Global. So let's move on to what's next, Cosmic, because that's going to be the second one that we're going to be talking about. Now this one's a little bit more interesting because it has changed a little bit, and there's one person in particular that I kind of want to talk about And he's not actually, probably by the time this video comes out, he's already been out and talked about, and I probably have him unlocked. It's going to be Kang the Conqueror. So I am recording this video a couple days before this video is going to get released. However, Kang the Conqueror is one of the newest characters to come out, and he is a cosmic character. They've also updated him and upgraded his kit to be more standalone friendly. And so he's going to be really, really awesome. I'm pretty sure it shows it in-game, actually, in fact. Where is the extra text? Has the text been added? I think it has. I thought it has. No, maybe it hasn't yet. Has it not been up there? Maybe we need to... Hold up. msf.gg. So you guys probably saw the part where they updated Kang's kit, right? Right? Where was that? Wasn't that up in here? No? I don't know why it took me so long to find this. So the Kang the Conqueror improvements, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's actually in the game yet. It should. The thing that I was looking for was on turn, attack all enemies for 50% piercing, plus steal 3% health from all enemies and redistribute to self. This attack bypasses heal block and ignores defense up. I didn't see that on the kit in game. Attack all enemies for 50%. This ignores attack up. But I didn't see the part where it redistributes health and things like that. So I guess he hasn't been officially updated yet, because as of the recording of this video, he hasn't been officially released. But regardless, Kang is going to be an incredibly powerful standalone character, and he is a tech character, which means that you should have plenty of gear in order to upgrade Kang. And he's for Cosmic. So he's definitely number one on my list for characters that you should be building for Dark Dimension Cosmic. On the other hand, of course, some of the usual suspects are still up here. So Cersei and Ikaris, you can't go wrong with the Eternals, and even at this point in the game, even though they're about a year and a half old, they're two characters that I personally recommend because they're going to be solid in the meta for a long time to come. They are so powerful that together they're going to be a twosome that's going to be able to be drag and dropped into a lot of compositions to kill a lot of things, and they're very powerful characters. I plan to, at some point, taking up Ikaris and Cersei to 95, you know, when that's available to me, because honestly, I think they deserve it. They're some of the best characters in the game, and you won't go wrong by upgrading these characters. You'll be able to use them almost anywhere that you can use characters, except for maybe the arena now, but even early on in the arena, they're very, very powerful if you have the two together. In every single game mode, you're going to be using them pretty much. So Ikaris and Cersei are definitely a mainstay in the Cosmic team. Now that's where things get obviously a little bit interesting here. So the characters that I want to point out specifically are Kestrel and Deathpool, and I wouldn't have mentioned Deathpool before, but now that we need both of them for the Apocalypse Saga, it does kind of make sense that you'd want to build them. I think that as characters go, they're kind of falling off a little bit as far as the power creep. Their stats are not as good now as they were when they came out. Also about almost 2 years old at this point for some of them. And so while I only would recommend it if you're chasing Apocalypse. If you're not chasing Apocalypse, well, there's a couple of other picks. Obviously, you're not going to be able to include Dormammu in here because you get him for, you know, clearing Dark Dimension 5. But characters like Hela and Evil Strange are two other characters that I would personally recommend. And fortunately, they're both Mystic as well, which, you know, Cersei and Ikaris are, and Kang isn't. So it might depend on what your gear allows for you to do. So out of the characters that I personally recommend, obviously Kang, Cersei, Ikaris, Kestrel, Strange, Hela, possibly as well, but she is really heavy. I do love her with Zombie Iron Man. It makes a very great combo, and she's a very strong standalone character. And Deathpool. Unfortunately, a lot of these characters are Mystic, and one of the reasons why I upgraded Phyla-Vell at all was actually because she was bio, and I had the gear spare, and there wasn't at the time really a lot of other options for me to do that I was kind of that I was okay with doing, and none of the other characters personally I would. Gamora's tempting because she's skilled, but some people may not have invested in her heavily, especially if you're a newer player. Some people may have skipped her, so for that reason, you know, it's really entirely up to you. She's the only other person on this list that I would consider, but none of the other characters down here in Cosmic would I really consider at this point. Interestingly, you might have noticed that I did do, where is he? T'Challa Star-Lord, and that was because of the tech option. But now because of Kang the Conqueror being available, he's definitely going to get that pick, not only for tech gear, well, Yeah, for tech gear. So he's going to be a better option. I don't think you need a double dip with T'Challa at this point because you're not really using him in too many other places. But Kang is someone that you're going to be using for a while. Not only is he for a legendary unlock, but he has more drag and drop potential. He has more, outside of his team as well. Very solid character, and he's going to be awesome. So that's my pick there for Cosmic. Okay, and getting to the section that I think that people were probably waiting for, and that's going to be the city section of Dark Dimension. Now, the characters that I have at Gear Tier 16 are not necessarily anymore the characters that I recommend that you take. Now, these are characters that I took to Gear Tier 16 because that was, I want to say, about 9 months ago. So these aren't necessarily characters that I recommend that you do now. Actually, I don't know when I cleared Dark Dimension 5. I don't remember. I think it was like April, but regardless, that was a long time ago now. Characters of the characters that I have upgraded that I do recommend, though, Shang-Chi, who's T-posing here for you. So he is still a very powerful character, and the reason for that is his ultimate does so much damage. With the T4, it does like 125% extra damage when you T4 this skill, and it does 75% additional damage per positive effect on the primary target. So there's a lot of times where there's a lot of buffed characters, they might have 3 or 4 buffs, and you're doing 300% additional damage on all of them, plus the 450. It's just, he kicks so hard. He is such a strong character. I still recommend high red stars on him. Very good character. I use him actually outside of war in quite a lot of places. He's a very great city character. He's a character that you can use like outside of Heroes for Hire. So he's a very strong character, and he's one of my first recommended upgrades. Squirrel Girl, honestly, is still going to be a recommendation for me. The reason why is she's a support character. So support characters are very rare in general, and they tend to be, even usable outside their own team. Squirrel Girl is usable outside her own team. I've loved Squirrel Girl since she came out, so maybe I'm a little bit biased here. She is bio, though, which I believe, for some people, it might be a little bit easier for you to do. She's not a mystic character. We'll talk about that when we look at some of the other options, so I think she's a little bit easier to gear up. You don't necessarily need to do all the T4s that I did because, I went ham on Squirrel Girl because she was a 7 red star natural pull that I did, but she's still a very strong character that I still recommend as well. So that's going to be Squirrel Girl and Shang-Chi. Now you're probably thinking, what about the Web Warriors? And I would really stay away from them. Personally, I would stay away from the Web Warriors because I don't believe that they're really of much value anymore because of Rebirth. Yes, I'm still using them a little bit right now because my Rebirth aren't quite as high power as my Web Warriors are, but I don't really recommend it at this point in time. Not even Ghost Spider anymore. Cloak and Dagger, unfortunately, are also, hitting the waistband at this point. They're not only are they mystic, so their gear is very heavily up for grabs, but I just don't think that there's much value for them unless there is some sort of new Warriors additional characters. There is some talk around about new Warrior characters coming. I don't know. If that's the case, then maybe I could consider putting them back on this list, but I don't want to put too many more Mystic characters on there, which is ironic because we're going to talk about some, and we're going to be talking about Mr. Negative. So if I had to do this all over again, Mr. Negative would be on that list. It would be that Gear Tier 16. Actually, the only thing that's stopping me from Gear Tier 16ing this right now is because I do have lots of other things that I need to do right now, including prepping for Apocalypse and things like that, so I don't want to put all the gear and the gold right now into him, but he is definitely someone that I would be taking all the way up to Dark Dimension 5 City because I think that he's well worth it. He's a very strong standalone character. I did a specific video on Mr. Negative standalone as well, if you want to search my channel for that. He is a very good character, and honestly, I don't think that you're going to go wrong with this. The Underworld team in general is a top 5 war offense team. They just absolutely kill it in war offense, so you're going to get some additional use out of Mr. Negative as well, which is really, really nice. And so I think he's a very strong character. His stats are incredible. He's got a ton of his hit points, his damage, his stats are very, very solid. So Mr. Negative gets a thumbs up from me. And so that's 3 characters there. The other 2, Spider-Man 2099. He is one of the best characters to go alongside Spider-Weaver, who you're obviously going to be gearing up anyways. He is a bio character as well. But when you talk about Tangled Web, you're typically talking about Spider-Man 2099 and Spider-Weaver. You're not really talking too much about Spider-Man Noir. So that's the unfortunate part. Also, he's not City anyways, so it doesn't really matter there. 2099 has some pretty solid standalone debuffs, so that's going to help you a lot in Dark Dimension as well. He applies slow for 2 turns, defense down for 2 turns, AoE, and he can also apply Death Proof to self and all allies if the enemy has Death Proof, so there's some survivability there. Fills his own speed bar, very, very good. He's got an ability block here, and it's unavoidable as well. I think, yeah, it is unavoidable. So very, very good skill here, and he gives also offense up to his allies, and they don't have to be Tangled Web either. So very, very good character, has a lot of good debuffs, can flip stuff. Very good character. That's 4 out of 5. This is where it gets a little bit tricky and a little bit muddy here. So a lot of people would just go to She-Hulk, right? If you're doing this, if you're gearing for Apocalypse still, if you're still pushing towards Apocalypse, you're going to do She-Hulk at Dark Dimension 5 level. You don't necessarily need to take 5 characters for Dark Dimension 3 and 4. 3 actually doesn't have a required number of characters, and 4 requires 4 of them, whereas Dark Dimension 5 requires 5. So you could actually get away with less characters until you hit to Dark Dimension 5, where you do require a 5th character. Now, at that point, by the time you get there, if you're not already there could be someone else better to do, but a lot of people do pivot to She-Hulk just because it double dips for the Apocalypse Saga. That being said, I don't think she's very good because she's going to be the worst character of your 5, but it does kind of double dip your resources for Apocalypse and for Dark Dimension 5. Some of the other characters that I would even consider doing at this point. If you, no, I can't. I really can't recommend putting Biogear into Web Warriors. I just really can't. And the other character I would. I'll tell you. And actually, maybe Spider-Man Noir is City, but he is Mystic, so I wouldn't do that. I'll tell you who. If I didn't do She-Hulk, who would I do? It's Kingpin. Actually, I would do Gear Tier 16 Kingpin because he's skill, right? So his gear is not super required at this point in time. Also, he's not terrible. He's going to be part of that Underworld team if you're taking in Mr. Negative. So you're going to have 2 characters already, part of that Underworld team that you're going to be able to use, and that'll help you get going when you're building this team outside or for War Offense. And so this is going to be really helpful. He has some good support functions. He also has some good survivability functions with the bodyguards. He spawns with the bodyguards, so that kind of gives you a little bit of extra mitigation and some survivability when you do your Dark Dimension run. And again, not super difficult to build. I'm pretty sure he's actually pretty cheap. I don't think he requires too many actual unique or actual gear pieces of that gear tier. So Kingpin. If you're not going to do She-Hulk, then I would definitely recommend Kingpin, and that's going to be my 5/6 characters for Dark Dimension City. Now, I don't think we even need to talk about Legendary, frankly, because it's pretty obvious who you're going to want to take. Any of the Horsemen. That's really it. Loki, hey, my dog. It's okay, Loki. We're finishing up the video. So, the Horsemen characters are really going to be the 4 characters that you're going to want to take. Outside of that, Shuri, Iron Man, Magneto, any of the other legendary characters that you're using right now for the other teams would make a lot of sense. Magneto would probably make the most sense, but if you are still using and you're gearing Wakandans or War Dogs or whatever, Shuri could be helpful, and obviously Iron Man for Bionic Avengers. You need 5 characters for Dark Dimension 5 legendary, 4 for Dark Dimension 4 legendary. At that point, just use as many of the Horseman characters as you possibly can. Don't think I need to talk too much more about this. So that's my Dark Dimension picks. That's for now in February of 2023. Now, maybe I'll be doing an updated video of this in a couple of months' time. But for the most part, I think that the only problem areas for some people might be City and for Cosmic. I hope that some of my explanations really helped you guys in understanding why I picked the characters that I did. And I hope this helps you get through Dark Dimension 3, 4, or 5, depending on where you're at in the game. So that's going to be it from me, Boilon, and until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. I'm signing out. I guess I screwed that up. Whatever. Bye!